an episode on the One Moment podcast. Everybody knows me. I'm your co host and your boy KO, and it is an absolute privilege and honor being here today. And I tell you, we got a very distinguished and honorable guest on our show. Another one. I mean, everybody is distinguished and honorable. Everybody who comes on our show, they are phenomenal, amazing. And this young lady, she stands out as one of our favorites too, just like everybody else. But she has a very particular story. It's very interesting and intriguing. And so I don't want to say too much of her story, but I am going to give her some intro. And I rarely do intros of people. I typically let people do their own intros. But hers different. Okay, we connected, we clicked, and we have a phenomenal, beautiful relationship. Her name is Shemaine, and she is the author of The Shoes That Fit Her Soul.
Mhm.
And the story behind that and how she came up with the title is absolutely one of the most beautiful and tear jerking
Oh.
stories I've ever heard. And listen, before we get into her telling her more about herself, we have to do a disclaimer because we talk about mental health, substance use, suicide prevention. We talk about it all on our show. So, if at any point that you are watching or listening to us and you are triggered, please, and you need help immediately, please utilize your resources. Call your therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, your primary care provider, go to a local emergency department, and go to a local crisis center. If you're in I think we're the Western Hemisphere, right? So I think it's U.S., Mexico, Canada, South Central America, anywhere in those. Now dial 988 for the National Crisis and Suicide Hotline. You also have 911 for the local emergency services or emergency response services. So that being said, since we got that part of the way, let's get into why we're here. The beautiful part,
Yes.
Miss Shemaine. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good today. We have our up days and down days, and today happens to be one of those good days. So I'm really, really feeling good today, and I'm glad it's Friday.
Friday, yes, ma'am. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and you were tuning in from which part of Texas again?
Austin. I'm in Austin, Texas.
Well,
They're kicking off the South by Southwest conference this week.
sweet, sweet. And I am tuning in from the big city of San Antonio, Texas. I don't live in San Antonio. I'm just here visiting temporarily. I go back home on Tuesday.
Well,
And
you're just down the road. Well, yeah, good, but you're just down the road. We've got some beautiful weather right now for you.
yes, it is. It's absolutely gorgeous out here. I mean, I woke up this morning. It was like 30 something degrees, but now it's like 70 something. It's beautiful, beautiful weather. So, uh, let's kick it off, okay? Because we can talk about Texas and how everything is beautiful and bigger in Texas, but let's kick it off with why you're here. All right,
Sure.
you're here to talk about not just your book, but also how it is to be a mother of you know of children who struggle with mental
Mhm.
health, substance use concerns, your own mental health substance not substance use, but your own mental health concerns. And so let's start off with your book. I think that's a beautiful place to start. Let's start off with the easy stuff and then kind of go into the hard stuff, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll kind of see where this thing goes. I mean, that's typically
Sure.
like to say.
Whatever you want. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here with you. And you're right, we clicked really well, and our stories kind of blend a little bit. Um, and my book is "Shoes That Fit Her Soul." Really is about my journey, and part of that included mental health because I came from a really dysfunctional family with two emotionally immature parents and an alcoholic father, and so my my journey really kicked off in my 40s when I reached a point where I couldn't manage things the way I had been doing it, and I realized it was because I'd not been taught some of the things that I needed to know as an adult because I was raised by these emotionally immature people. So, Shoes That Fit Her Soul follows my journey. I give a little bit of my backstory, and then it really kicks off around that midlife period where had been through a divorce amicably. We were still friends. We were raising our kids together. We had three children together. They're all grown adults by now, but back then they were in their teens, early 20s, and so we separated, divorced, and then I lost my job. I lost the house. I had to downsize my car. And when I lost my job, the economy fell, and there was just nowhere else where to work. I was having trouble. So about 4 years of a deep struggle. I went through depression, and um, I mean, I lost weight. I kind of thought of it as my unraveling, and everything was just coming off of me, and that included weight. I got really low in the weight. My children were worried about me because of that, but it had to do with my stress and my depression and everything I was trying to handle at one time. It was very difficult. And then after about 4 years, I had found a new job, a corporate job, and I felt, oh, this is going to be it. I can come out, I can, pull myself up again. It's going to be okay. I can support the kids and provide benefits. And their dad was helping too. But, today we need both parents, in the ring. Well, the day after I got my job, my first husband died. He was killed in an accident. So, I'd already been through so much, and then thought things were going to get better, and then that happened. It was devastating. And the first thing that came to my mind is, what am I going to tell the kids? How am I going to handle that? That you don't get a manual on how to do that with your children, and so it was a really rough year. I'm grateful that I had that job because it kind of kept me going, kind of kept me in sync and kept me going, and it helped me continue to help the children too, or my kids. Um, but after that, I was in therapy. I did women's support groups. When you're in a position like that, it doesn't have to be the death of a loved one, but just any type of loss or struggle. It sometimes we need professional help, and it was the first time I had gotten professional help, and it really turned my life around in the sense I was able to even go back further to my childhood and recognize the things that I had been taught and the things that shaped me that were not healthy. So it was a definite pivotal moment in my life, a changing point in my life. And as I continued through growing and helping myself, and getting well, I had a desire to help other people, and in particular, I wanted to help other women because I understand the struggles of women, and in the society and families. And I'm the oldest daughter, which brings with it its own circumstances of a lot of times we're put in charge of, and I carried the emotional health of my parents because they didn't know how to do that. So I had to learn really quick when I was young. But I think what I'm most proud of that came out of this book and this experience is that I really got tuned into who I was. I began, it became my mission to really figure out who I was at the core and not who I had been shaped to be by my parents and the people around me, and all the responsibilities and the roles and all these things I played for other people. I had no idea who I was. So I um, took it upon myself just to really research what happens when you grow up in a home with an alcoholic parent or emotionally immature parents, and what are the effects of that. And I really just did so much research so that I could become a better person for my kids. I didn't want to be that parent like my parents, where there was no guidance and there was no encouragement and understanding, like being self aware. And that's really what got me going because I wanted my kids to have a better life. Now, by this time, they are older. I did do a pretty good job while they were younger, but it's never too late. It's never too late to make a change in your life that's going to benefit those around you. So, I can tell you about my dream, which is really kind of cool, that happened to me after much of this process. I had a dream. You want me?
Well, look, I was thinking Dr. Martin Luther King. I had a dream. I love it. No, 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 no. Please, like, I mean, because that really gets us to the point of the book, into the
Yes, it does.
came to be or came into fruition. Absolutely, I want to hear it. I mean, I know
Sure.
about it, but how much does the public know?
Right. It's just coming out. Um, well, the dream was the second pivotal moment in my life because it was not only did I have a dream of helping other women and other people. I found that this story helps all everybody, men, women, anybody. But I told it from a women's perspective, obviously, a woman's perspective because I'm a woman. But so as I was working on it, I began journaling. Journaling was another thing that really helped me through these stages in my life. And I realized when I looked through my journal that I had written a story. And I thought, well, I need to tell my story and share my story, but I want another way to show people how I did it. And I really didn't know what steps I had taken to really connect to myself again. So as I went through those stories, I started picking out things that I realized I had done. And then it became a matter of I want to be able to put those pieces together in a nice, neat package or framework that I could share with others that they could easily understand and then take it and use it for themselves. And everybody's journey is going to look different. Everybody's healing is going to look different. But when I would go to the bookstores or um, look for a book to help me, I couldn't find something that would tell me how to do it. I didn't find a framework. All I found were things of why you're this way or why it happened or why, and how you need to change it. But how do you change it? So after a long time of writing and trying to figure all this out for myself, I felt like it was time to just kind of push back, take a break, take a break. I've been working on this by this time almost 10 years. I had been working on myself and then, trying to write some. And I said, okay, I just had enough. On top of that, I'm still working a full time job in corporate. So I've got all these things I'm juggling. And I just needed to get away. I needed a break. It's not like I never took some time to myself, but this time it needed to be big. So I had remarried by this time, and my husband and I decided to go for a road trip. And so we drove from Texas through Colorado and up to Moab, Utah. And I love that part of the country because of its beauty and the energy and the red rocks, and it's just very, very soothing and energizing. And we spent about 5 days there, and then came back. And a week after we got back from that trip, I was energized and ready to work again and work on my project. And I had a dream. I went to bed. It was like a Friday night. I went to bed, and in the dream, I imagined myself, or I saw myself at work and ready. And a coworker said, "Let's go for a walk." And we used to walk a lot anyway. And I kept my shoes under my desk. So in the dream, I had bent down to get my shoes to change into my walking shoes. And then as we went through the building and downstairs, and how your dreams are, they'll take you in paths and stuff. When we walked out the front door of the building to go for a walk outdoors, I wasn't wearing my shoes. And I looked down, all I had on was socks. And in my dream, I'm thinking, how do you forget your shoes to go for a walk? They're so necessary, unless you're on the beach or something. But so I turned around and went back to get my shoes, and that's when I woke up. And I thought, God, that was so vivid. And it felt like there was a message for me, but I couldn't, it wasn't coming to me right away. So I kept thinking about it and I got up and went to the bathroom and I was washing my face. And as I'm looking into the mirror, Kevin, I felt a warmth come over me. Literally, it was like I felt flush. I felt this warmth, and I heard the words in my head, "You're going to teach women to find their shoes for their journey." And I began weeping because I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt like my calling. It felt like a mission. I've got to figure this out. What does that mean? I'm going to teach women to find their shoes. And as I went to wake up my husband to tell him I felt like I had my calling or, my purpose, all of a sudden the shoe broke into these pieces, the components of the shoe, and they outlined each of the elements I had done to restore and reclaim my true self. And it started with the sole. The sole of the shoe is the foundation. Well, the soul that we have is our foundation. All the unanswered questions, everything we want to know about ourselves is deep within our soul. And so we have to investigate that and really get down to the core of who we are. The heel, which is behind us, I imagined the shoe getting stuck by the heel. And I thought, that's our past. Those are things that we have in our past that we're holding us back. And healing from those things and being able to let some of that go is going to help us start to move forward again. The arch of the shoe represented um, the support. In the shoe, an arch is the support. Well, we need a support system around us as we're taking this journey of self discovery. I also decided that that's a good place to also talk about boundaries. You know, we need to learn how to set healthy boundaries, but it first comes from surrounding yourself with a strong support system. The toe, it represented the wisdom within us, our intuition, because it's leading us one step at a time forward in our journey. The tongue was my voice. I had to rediscover my voice. I had to understand that I have a voice and it deserves to be heard. And to be able to speak my values and my beliefs, the ones that I've adopted for myself. The eyelets of the shoe was representing the visualization and the vision of who you want to become. At that time in my life, I didn't really care for the person I had become. I wanted to be someone better in my mind, someone that I wanted to be. So I set goals to become that person. I took, by going to the support groups and I took life coaching and things like that, that mattered to me. And then the last two are the laces, and the laces come in and tie everything together. It's the connection. And when we have a strong connection with ourselves, we can create strong relationships with others, the healthy kind, the ones that we need in our lives. And the last part was the stitching of the shoe. And that stitching, goes all around, ties everything together. Well, that's our life story. That's the story that we've lived, which is does not have to define us because we now have the power to write the story we want, the legacy that we want to leave our loved ones, and that's up to us. So that all came together in the shoe, and I, instead of just ignoring that, I set to work and I created a workbook and a book, and now I'm teaching workshops and just spreading that around to help people take their own journey.
Wow. That, wow. When I tell you tear jerking, like I'm sitting over here, I got cold chills. I'm starting to tear up. Just that's how beautiful it is. Wow. I'm just
Thank you
speechless.
so much.
Uh,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Like you, that is, one of the things that my brain's going in 100 different directions right now. Like, oh my god, we could talk about this. We could talk about this. Like we could talk. Then I have to slow myself down and be like, Kev, this is her first time on the show. There's plenty of time to go in 100 different directions. Let's just choose one and go with it.
I'm game, wherever you wanna go, whatever.
Right, right. It says slow down and let's just get back into reality here, right? Oh my God. But no, what I love about it is that you help people build an idea or an ideal self, an ideal identity instead of uh, what society says, we have to be or we must be or we think we should
Right,
be or what this person says we need to do or what that person says we have to do, just that and the third. And that's what I love about, you know, everything that you literally described. I mean, it was phenomenal. And so you're starting to teach others. Let me ask you this. Um, yeah, where, well, man, I don't even want to go there because that's jumping ahead of the bus 100 feet. Let's, let me, let's back it up a little bit, right? You put this stuff together. You're thinking about the shoes. You're putting everything together to help build an ideal self. What got you to thinking about that your goal or your desire is to help others?
it was the fact that that's a good question because I think part of our healing journey when we are in self discovery mode and we're really, the most important connection we have is with yourself. I mean, you need that before you can really accomplish anything else. And we grow to I grew. My experience was as I got to know myself, I grew to love myself. And that wasn't always the case. I was an unhappy person. I didn't really like the person I was, but I never understood why. And as I began to connect deeper with myself and really understand my values and the things I truly believed in, I began to think, you're not such a bad person. You're a good person, even though maybe I had been told that in the past. You're not worthy, you're not valuable. Especially, it's one thing at home when your parents, aren't encouraging and they're not, but not all parents are like that. Some are very encouraging. Well, you get out into society, and especially as a woman, not only because I'm a woman, but if you're marginalized in any way, you feel worthless. You feel like, you're not getting the credit you deserve. So, as I'm doing this, I just felt a desire to tell women and tell other people, you are valuable. You are worthy just as you are. And you may not believe it, but the way to understand and start believing is to connect deeper with yourself. And I wanted to do it first for my children because I felt they deserved to know who I really was. And if I didn't know who I was, they certainly saw another version of me that was not me, and I wanted them to know the real version of me. And so, but I had to figure out what that was first. So, first helping them, and then once I realized and how good I felt after years of doing this work, how good I felt, I wanted others to have that same feeling. I wanted them to understand that they are worthy and valuable, and they deserve their voices deserve to be heard just as much as mine. Um, I probably also because my youngest, he was 15 when his dad died. He struggled the most, and it just broke my heart that I didn't know what to do, and it hurt me to see him struggle with his mental health from that tragedy. And so, yeah, I felt like there was nothing else I could do but just to help others. As I got well, then I wanted to help others be well.
Mm. Yeah, no, and I think that's a beautiful um, way that you brought everything together because one of the things that I I mean, I heard you talk about quite a few things here, and
Mhm.
it's a lot. I mean, man, like it's so much to unpack, and especially within one episode, like we're not going to be able to humanly do this, right? But we can start the unpacking of this process because I love your experience and story. Like, so intrigued by it. But one of the things you said was, it's about trying to do something for others. And another thing you said, okay, that was number one. Number two is you also spoke something that I think is a myth in recovery. And I say recovery, it doesn't matter if it's mental health, substance use, suicide prevention, like it doesn't matter, right? If I'm doing, and I love that you shared it, if I'm doing it for my kids, I'm doing it for myself too. A lot of
Mhm.
people think that you have to do it for you. If you don't do it for you, you're going to fail. You didn't share that. You said that I wanted to do it first for my kids because they needed the mother that they deserved and the mother that I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And then you started doing it for others so that you can help them grow into the person that they desired or needed to be. And I think that's important to really hit home at.
Yeah.
That's a huge myth. That is a huge myth, especially in the recovery community. So thank you for really painting that picture.
Sure. I mean, you need a motivator. You need something. It's easy for someone to say, "Well, you need to help yourself." I mean, I don't know how many times I said that to my son. I was like, "I can't help you. You've got to help yourself." But then what I remembered was I had to have motivation. And what was my motivation? And for everyone, it's going to be something different. And for me, it was my children. They deserved better than what they were getting from me. And so my motivation became I need to do this for them and myself, but they're my motivation.
And I think it's the distinguishing feature that you were just saying is a motivator, right? And I think a lot of people, yeah. I'm gonna continue with that thought. I think a lot of people get the idea of what a motivator is. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people think it should be an internal, change process, and I don't fully agree with that. Do I think it could be? Absolutely. But I think there's also many other people like yourself, and because I've seen it and I've heard it too many times to count, that if I do it for myself, then my self esteem is so low, like you just shared, right? Like had severely low self esteem. So if you do it for yourself, who are you doing it for? You see what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Oh,
But if
yeah.
you do
Oh,
it for
yeah.
your kids, or you do it for your spouse, or you do it like if you have that external motivation, then you have something of value that is more value than you are in that given moment.
In that
uh,
moment, yes.
Right? Not saying that you don't have value, but in that moment you have no value. You don't.
You think you don't have it. And
Right.
until you can believe that about yourself, you're gonna think that about yourself. So sometimes it's easier to put that motivation onto some even your pet. What if you have a dog or a cat or, some sort of, or just, whoever it is, let that be your motivation to get you started. And then once you're moving along and making some progress, and it's important to see. I used to tell my son, I said, "Honey, look at where you are, where you were a year ago, and let's talk about the things you've been able to do in this past year." And so we celebrated the little victories. It didn't. He wasn't just like changed overnight. This went on for 15 years for us, and it's going to be different for everyone. But this year was the first year we often I with my other two children who are older, um, when it comes to the anniversary of their dad's passing, of his death, or his birthday, we acknowledge it and we say something to each other. I just send an I love you, or I'll send hearts or something so they know I'm thinking about them. But for my youngest son, he couldn't be in that conversation. He didn't want to be. It wasn't like he wasn't invited. He didn't want to be. And this year was the first year that he sent the first text to all of us. And he said, I miss dad. And so he has never been able to say that before. And it was just, it made me cry because I thought, oh my gosh, he's back, he's here, he's alive, and he's going to be okay. Because over that 15 years, we were in and out of the hospital a lot. So, and you know, I was trying to get through my transformation and recovery and all these things for my life, and yet I still had to be there for him and my other two. And sometimes I didn't know what to do. That's what the hardest part of being a mother of a child struggling with mental health is. Sometimes you just feel helpless. You don't know the right words. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. And we've talked about that since then. And he now says neither one of us knew what to do, and that kind of took some weight off of me to know that it wasn't just me. He wasn't just expecting me. He was um, trying on his own the best he knew how, um, and now he understands that I was doing the same thing. It may not have been right every time. I may have said some things that were unnecessary or shouldn't have said at all, but neither one of us really knew how to do this. And eventually we got into rhythm, and um, I have one of the closest connections with him, I guess, because um, of what we've been through together. And so one thing I always did with him as a mom. Anytime the conversation, whatever kind of conversation we had, and those were few and far between for a long time, I would always tell him, I believe you. I mean, I believe in you and I love you. I always made sure that the conversation I ended was with those two phrases because I never wanted him to think I was ashamed of him or I had given up on him, or, you know, none of those things were true, but I never wanted him to think that. So I had to make sure I stated those things to him each time I talked to him or text him or whatever. I still say those things, but it's just such a struggle because you don't want to think about losing someone.
No, no, and I think it's important because from what you said earlier, and I think this is where you were trying to do things differently. It sounds like, anyways, and I'm assuming here. So if I'm wrong, then apologies, of course. But
Sure.
you said earlier that you grew up and you heard that you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, you're not
Hmm.
worthy, so on and so forth. And
Hmm.
instead of telling your son that so that he don't internalize those messages or those words or those, what have you, you wanted him to internalize you're good enough, you're powerful enough, you're loved, like all of these things. And so you always, regardless of, would always be, son, I believe in you and I love you. Right?
Hmm.
Like you were literally re-emphasizing that every single time you converse with them, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's very important for people to understand. If you're listening and watching here, right, the words we say, the words we use matter. Like it doesn't matter. I can say, this dude's a drug addict, right? Or this dude's a drunk. Or I can say, hey, he's a person who struggles with
Yeah.
drugs, a person who struggles with alcohol, a
Right.
person who has bipolar, a person who has a history of suicidal thoughts, because you're humanizing that person when you do that. When you're speaking positive messages, you're speaking positively and not using negative connotations. And that's
Yeah.
what I love that you just shared. You just literally brought that whole the whole thing there completely in full circle,
Yeah.
from the history of you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, to even in
Yeah.
the darkest, deepest moments of despair, you're loved and you're important.
Yeah.
You
I I
know what I'm
I
saying?
love the way you tied that together. I hadn't really thought of it that way. I mean, I do feel like I've come full circle and I have broken the cycle, the generational cycle. You know, my parents were were raised by parents that abused and neglected them too. It's not like they uh, uh, tried they just passed on a pattern that they had learned themselves. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was the oldest and I felt like a lot of my memories were just witnessing. I felt like I was just watching everything. And of course, when you're come from a family like that, you do get hyper vigilant. You're watching for the um, next incident to happen or the next blow up or whatever is going to happen. And so as the oldest, I think you're more hyper vigilant because you're wanting to protect your younger siblings. But I feel like I have come full circle and broken that cycle. My kids recognize it because they knew their grandparents, they knew what they were like. And I let them, as they got older, I let them choose the relationship they wanted to have with them. But one other thing I thought of, Kevin, that I used to tell my son was, "This is not your destiny." Yeah, he would, try to give up and try to do this, and I'm like, This is not your destiny. I see so much more for you, and one day you'll figure that out. But right now, I know this is not your destiny." So, and maybe I was doing that to help myself feel good about it too, because I didn't want to, I had to face the fear of what might really happen. I heard that from, I don't know if it was one of my therapists or a coach or something one time said to the audience and not just to me, when you fear something, really question what you're in fear of and think about the worst possible scenario that you fear and the way she said it was just like, and accept it. And I mean, that may sound hard or harsh. But I did. My fear was that he would end up on the street alone and die. So I had to play that out in my head and just keep playing it out. And I'm like, well, if that is what happens, I have to accept that because I can't control what he does in the meantime. So that's, I think, why I would tell him this is not your destiny, because I was going to will that into him that that was not what was going to happen to him.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
you
no,
were,
and I love that. I absolutely love it because you're not only trying to speak positivity for yourself, but you're also trying to be positive for that person. You're trying to be strong not just for yourself, but for that person. Now,
mhm,
throughout these years, 15 years that you struggled
mhm,
with, and I say you, talking about, I mean, in like you and your family struggled,
family. Yeah.
you're really the matriarch here.
Mhm.
Like, people don't, I don't think people typically realize it, but in the Caucasian or Western society, Western civilization, Caucasian culture, we're very patriarchal.
Oh, yeah.
The dad passed away, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say fortunately too, depending upon one's perception, just because like y'all had an experience as a family
Yeah.
as a result of his passing, which could be looked at as blessings. So I want to say that. Um, and so like at a young age, as a family unit, as at a young age, like y'all became a matriarchal unit,
Never
and
really thought about that.
so
Yeah.
you had to literally, I mean, you weren't given a manual. Oh,
Mhm.
how do I wear the pants in the family now? You see what I'm saying? How do I wear
Mhm.
the pants and how do I do this and how do I do that? And so I agree with what you two were talking about. Like y'all didn't know how to help each other because you didn't have a manual that says, "Hey, if your son does this, you do this," or if your son says this, you say
Right.
this. If this happens, then you need to do this or you should do this. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Oh, yeah. I didn't I had no idea what to do. And I guess, I also felt fortunate that both of my older 2, my daughter was in college and my son in the middle, I have a daughter and 2 sons, and the older son had just graduated from high school, and he decided he wanted to go to art and media school up in Chicago. He woke up one day after his dad passed just weeks after his graduation, and he's like, "I want to go to Chicago. There's a media school up there, and I just want to go up there." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's pack a bag and go and check it out." And so he ended up doing that for a while. My oldest daughter, we tend to, I think it was just she was, responsible. We've talked about the fact that I hope I didn't put too much on you when it was not necessary. And we've had that long discussion about that. But all that to say is I didn't worry so much about the older two because they were already plotting their path and moving up. Now they'd struggled, don't get me wrong. They still, if any of us would give anything to have him back. But they were able to manage it much better than my younger son. So my focus then came to him. And that was something I struggled with too, is that I didn't want all the attention to be about him all the time. I wanted to try, and so I had to balance how to give the other 2 the attention from me that they deserved. And then I had to think about myself too. I mean, I couldn't be brought down all the time. There were times, Kevin, when he was an adult, and there were times I had to turn my phone off at 10 o'clock because I couldn't handle getting those texts in the middle of the night or getting those phone calls about him. I'm going to do it this time. I can't, I'm like, if he does, I can't be witness to that. I'll find out in the morning. I don't want, I hope that doesn't sound cruel to people, but we have to have those sets of boundaries. And he knew, he understood what he was doing. Um, and I knew what he was doing at times. So anyway, there were just periods of time where certain boundaries became necessary, and then I'd lift that boundary and we could start over again. But it was difficult to know if I was doing the right thing. There were so many times I felt like, is this, was that the right thing to do? Am I doing this wrong? I mean, I questioned myself all the time. I cried a lot. I cried to people. Am I a bad parent? Am I a good, it, so many things going on during that time. But you get exhausted. You get really tired.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You get mentally drained. Mentally drained, emotional burnout, like emotionally exhausted. I mean, it's one thing to be physically tired, but when you are emotionally drained, emotionally burnt out, like that's a whole different ball game of being like tired.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, and you're having to do this day in and day out for 15 years. That takes a
Yeah.
toll on the human body, on the human psyche. It takes a toll on our spirit, our
Your spirit, that's
energy.
good.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
takes a toll on us. Let me
Working
ask,
full yeah.
yeah,
Writing my doing all of this stuff. I look back, I think, I don't know how you did it. I did it though, and I kept going, and I just kept setting that vision and goal for myself to get to that place. And I knew from my life experiences, and most of us know deep down that we are our human bodies, our human mind are meant to adapt, and we adapt to the things that we need for survival. And yes, we're feeling physically exhausted, we're feeling mentally exhausted and fatigued and all of these things, but for some reason we just keep going. And that's what heals, is just to keep going. When it becomes too much and you want to give up, find that support system of people that can lift you up and help you get through this. I had many friends, and for different situations, I knew I could call them and say, "I can't do this anymore. I don't know what else I can do," and it just let me vent it to them, and then I felt better, and I could, sit back and kind of think things through. But you've got to have a support system around you, even as a mother, once I had gotten past my healing, I still needed people around. I still have people around me. I still have them. It's part of our human nature. We've got to have support. We can't do this on our own.
No, I think you're right. It is about having that support, and I think I think the essence of human relationships is that we are biologically wired to be social creatures, right?
Hmm.
I can't do this without you, but you can do this without me. You see what I'm saying? Like, and I think we have
Yeah.
to ingrain that type of thinking in us. Um, Let me ask you this, because I know a lot of people, you know, I know every family's different.
Hmm.
And with substance use
Absolutely.
and mental health, there could be a lot of hospital visits, a lot of psychiatric inpatient units, like
Mhm.
things like that, a lot of ER visits, potentially even overdoses, right?
Right.
So, what would be some of your, even suicidal attempts or suicidal ideations?
Hmm.
What would be some of your experiences over that 15-year period? Because, I mean, there's active mental health, or untreated mental health, shall I say, untreated addiction, like things like that. What
Yeah.
was some of your experience, well, throughout those 15 years?
Um, like my experiences with, because my son would, he had all of that. He never attempted, but he threatened a lot, and we would end up in the hospital. Um, and you know what's complicated is when your child is an adult, you don't have as much say in anything anymore when it comes to their care. And it's, that's where the struggles really became the hardest for me was, going to see him in the hospital, and there really wasn't much I could do. I mean, doctors won't talk to you. Of course, he would give them permission to talk to me at times, but um, and then me trying to find the help he needed, I would call facilities and, things that I felt like could help him, but it was up to him to want to go. And he might act like he wanted to go at first, and then he'd back out at the last minute. And that's for me, that was the struggle. That was the hardest part. And then, I mean, we could go even deeper and say, the healthcare systems here, they're not there to help much. I know there are some really good ones, but when you're not used, this is not a part of everyday life. Where do you go? Who do you turn to? Things like that. For me, that was the hardest part because I just felt like I was helpless.
And I'm glad you brought that distinction. I was just talking in a previous episode how, you know, the healthcare system is broken. In the U.S., we have a broken healthcare system, and then mental health or behavioral health is the second cousin. And so, because
Hmm.
the first cousin is broken, the second cousin is automatically broken, right?
Hmm.
And if you take as a whole of our healthcare system, over 75% of Americans report not feeling like they are getting the healthcare they deserve, not getting quality services, so on and so forth. And so if you factor that in, that's 75% of Americans. We're what, 350 million people? I mean, you're talking about what, you know, if you factor in 350 million, let's just go with that, 350 million people, what is 75%? Over, at a minimum, 75% of that number of population
Right,
report being treated like a number and not a person. Like, and
right.
it's very critical that people are treated with distinguished, care, with care that they deserve, with qualitative
Dignity.
services. And when
Yeah.
you are working in a broken system,
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's exactly what you shared just a second ago. I am getting no help. I get no help. I can't get any answers. I'm all alone. The system is there, but what system is it?
Mhm.
I mean, everything that you just shared was critical. And just imagine like 15 years of doing this. Let me ask you this. At the end of that 15 years, right, when it's probably some of the darkest it is, what are some of your thoughts that's running through your mind? Like, you just kind of paint that picture for us.
Well, the thing I was thinking of because, the last time I attempted to get him professional help was just in 24, 2024, and, what was going through my mind is, am I going to have to do this for the rest of my life? And I was okay with that. I thought, well, if I am, I just need to accept it and just treat it, do the best I can. And then I felt a little resentful because I'm retired now, and I even said to him a couple of times, "I'm retired. I should be enjoying my next act and all these things." And, maybe part of me was, wanted I just wanted him to be I wanted to be honest. I wanted him to know how this was affecting me. He may feel like he feels, but he thinks it's only affecting him. And I often reiterated how, although I wanted the best for him, I wanted him to be well again, um, and he had so many positive things, or he has, and, but I also wanted him to know, you are affecting other people in your life who love you, who want to see you beat this, and, so, yeah, I think it was a bit of, um, hopelessness at times and resentfulness. There were times I was angry, but in my heart, I knew that this was a very big struggle for him, and it wasn't his fault. That was another thing. He put off being diagnosed with what it was that he was dealing with. And I was constantly asking him to please get diagnosed. So at least, because I know when you name something, you don't have to own you can understand it and know what it is you need to do in order to manage it, control, get past it, whatever it is, you know what you understand the treatment you might need, all these things. But if you're just trying to swim in this and not knowing what it is that you're dealing with, it's useless, really, in my opinion. I felt like he was just struggling for no reason, meaning if you just at least find out. And do you know, Kevin, when he finally did get diagnosed, I had him come home and live with us for a year. I said, "You're just struggling too much. Your things are not going well for you at all," because he lives in California. I said, "I want you to come home for a year. Don't worry about bills. Don't worry about anything. You don't have to work. I just want you to come home and we'll take care of you and we'll get you the help you need here at home so that we can monitor things." And even his brother and sister, who also live here with me in this city in Austin, they got on the phone and encouraged him to do that, and we all supported him to come home. And he lived with us for a year, and, he got diagnosed. He started getting the help he needed, he started getting the medications he needed, and that's really but I think he was at one of the lowest points at that time, and he called me and said, "I can't do this, mom. I can't do it." I said, "Then come home. Let me take care of you." 'Cause for a long time, he kept trying to get me to do it from afar. I'm like, "I can't do this from way up over here and you're way out there. There's just no way. It's frustrating for me and it's frustrating for you." But he had his time out there alone and long enough to see that it was too complicated, too difficult for him. Now he's back. He's working and, all everything. And the other thing, Kevin, I'll say is that, he has a passion for music. He plays guitar, he writes songs, he plays drums, he plays he is talented naturally with music, and that's his passion. And I never once wanted him to give that up because to me, that was the one thing that brought him joy. And so even though it could be a lost cause for people thinking, "Oh, well, he'll never make it as a musician and blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "I'm sorry, but that is the only thing that gives him joy right now, and I am not gonna tell him to quit." So now he's producing music and, he's still in a band, he's producing their album. So, you know, I didn't wanna take things away from him that were meaningful, but I needed him to come home and take a break for a while.
Wow. No, and that's beautiful. That is beautiful. And I'm gonna have to challenge you and myself. Next time you come on, we got to do a triplet. You, he, and myself.
Oh, that would be great.
It'll be so awesome.
I would love that. And I've asked him if he would be willing to do that with me, and he's like, "Sure, sure, mom."
Listen,
So,
let's make it happen.
okay.
Absolutely. Let's make it happen. So
I would
listen,
love to.
no, please, yeah. Look, anytime, any day, for you two are more than welcome.
Well, thank you. I'll let him know
Yes,
that.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. I can't hold you up all day. I can't. I would love to because I'm doing a thousand. Man, I got so many things on my brain I can just ask and dig into, but I don't want to do it.
We'll
I
save
don't
it for
want to.
next
Yes.
time.
So let's go ahead and start wrapping up then. Okay.
Okay.
If people want you to, as a mentor, coach, podcast, guest speaker, what have you, even a sponsor or whatever, it doesn't matter. How would they contact you?
You can find my website is shoesthatfithersoul.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Shemaine Olivia.
Okay. There's anything that somebody who's watching or listening to this episode, there's anything you want them to take away, what is that?
I would also, oh, let me mention also my book is on Amazon. My book and the companion workbook are both on Amazon or my website. But what I want people to know, I don't know who you are, where you are in this journey that you're on, whether you're the parent, whether you're the the patient or the person who struggles with day to day life, which all of us do. Just know that you were born to be seen and heard for who you are, for who you truly are, and surround yourself with the people who love you for who you are now, but will also help you become the person you want to be.
Thank you. And you already answered one of my questions. And the most important question that probably you're going to be asked for the rest of the day. Okay. Can't speak for
Okay.
tomorrow, but for today,
Okay.
you ready for it?
Sure.
What is your call to action?
My
What is
call
it
to
you want
action.
people to do or to, what
I find your motivator, find your motivation, and just work on being the best version of yourself. We um, start just get to know yourself. Just really plug into that core. I have an exercise in my workbook where I ask people to uh, name their values and their core beliefs. I was 40 years old and I had no idea what my values and core beliefs were, not because I didn't use them and act upon them when I made decisions and things. It's just I didn't know how to name them. So I actually list them in my workbook, but you can Google what are values and what are core. But that really helps. It's good to check in every now and then. When years go by so quickly, check in and see what values you have and what core beliefs you have. And then the other thing I tell them at the same time, what are your likes and dislikes? Figure out those things because your likes and dislikes change over time, and you may not have checked in with that lately. And it's good to know. Um, oh yeah, I don't like that anymore. I used to like that, but it's just good to know. It's a good way to start to connect deeper with your soul. And I think that's the most important connection we have is with ourselves because that gives us the courage and the confidence to speak our truth and to begin to do the things that mean the most to us.
Absolutely. Could not have said that any better. So, that being said, first and foremost, a major and humble shout out to you. Thank you, Miss Shemaine, for coming on today
Thank you.
and to being the absolutely amazing person that you are.
Thank you. Mm.
Yes, ma'am. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. Um, and listen, folks, you heard it. There's hope, there's resources, there's help. Don't give up. Don't give up before the miracle happens. The miracle's right around the corner, yet we can't see it. Uh, So, with that being said, I'm going to end the live. Don't go anywhere, Miss Shemaine. For you folks, check us out. We're on all social media platforms: Facebook's, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Pandora, Blue Sky, Threads. We're across the board. Doesn't matter. Twitch, Mastodon, you name it. If we can be on it, we're on it. So, thank you for checking us out, and thank you for checking